I don't see Dominguez and Jones as problems. They haven't proven anything. They haven't proven enough for a championship team. If they're playing for the Chicago White Sox, they're probably the left fielder and center fielder on opening day. But they're not. They're playing for a team that wants to try to win a championship. So what they are right now is depth that needs to prove more or be used in trades. And the best thing that can happen to the Yankees is they prove some stuff and either help them or help them by being good enough to get traded for stuff they need.
Hello and welcome to the Pinstripe Post. The Yankees have officially announced that Cody Bellinger signed a 5-year deal with the New York Yankees. They get their key guy back this offseason, and now there's questions about what happens the rest of this offseason. We are a little bit over 2 weeks away from pitchers and catchers reporting for the Yankees down in Tampa Bay. But before we get to any of that, as always, Joel Sherman, how are you doing today on this frigid Tuesday morning?
Yeah, I don't know if you could hear it. My heater's kicking because it's crying. It's been working a lot recently. But yeah, I hope all New Yorkers are staying warm and safe and thinking of spring training, which is now less than 2 weeks away. I'm actually going to be with the Mets when they open. I'm flying down Super Bowl Sunday to they're there the night. A little you could go in a little earlier because of the WBC this year. If there's players that are WBC affiliated, and the Mets have a series of them. So Clubhouse Wednesday on Monday, February 9th. So yeah.
It's you're not alone in that. I am ready for the heat. I'm ready for the warmth. I'm ready for spring training. Ready for the crack of baseball bats and the balls being thrown and the
You've
earlier.
been hardboard out. You've been catted out. You're up to baseball now. This
Yeah,
is good.
and the Rangers are giving me nothing as a Ranger fan. So now it's full baseball season. So look, your thoughts for the Pinstripe Post fans out there on the Cody Bellinger deal, because I know I've seen you give your analysis in a bunch of other places, but I'm just curious now that we're a couple days removed from the news of that deal coming out. You were actually at the Bo Bichette presser, which is funny when that news did break. But what do you think about this 5-year deal with a couple opt-outs built into it itself?
Yeah, there's a player the Yankees obviously badly wanted back. I know there's some concerns about the consistency of the player. I think he found some stuff both as a person and as a baseball player that has made him a very, very high level player the last 3 years. That 2024 season where his numbers came down with the Cubs, I do tell people go look at what Wrigley Field played at that year. There's one other full season where the Cubs OPS at home, it was 1919, was as low as it was in 2024. Whatever the winds were in the Windy City or whatever was going on at Wrigley really defeated offense. And he was okay, and he's been well more than okay. He's been superb in 2023 and 25 obviously being with the Yankees. I think he's still at least in his late prime. He's got a couple of years of excellence, I would think, for a team that's trying to win a championship as soon as possible. And he remains what he was last year. He's a Swiss Army knife. He's left, center, and right. Grisham is a guy who every once in a while, because of leg stuff, needs some rest. He could go play center. He's not, it's probably the worst of his positions, but he's fine. He's by far their best defensive left fielder they've had since Brett Gardner. He really makes a difference out there. I think his ability to play first base is going to be much more important this year without Paul Goldschmidt and with Ben Rice playing the position. Do the Yankees go to a situation where they defend late with him at first and they bring in somebody else to play the outfield? I'd be curious. I'm sure we're going to talk about that. I'm curious who that other outfielder might be as we go along here. So yeah, he hits lefties. He hits well at Yankee Stadium. He's a good clubhouse presence, a mature guy, not afraid of playing in New York. I thought it was a guy that, all things being equal, if they could bring him back, they should bring him back. I think the contract, like you never pay what you want if this is bidding on a good house. Nobody saw Kyle Tucker getting $60 million a year when this started in a contract shaped like it was. Nobody saw Bo Bichette's numbers going where they went per year on such a short contract. And really, Bellinger's contract for the first 2 years, which is like 42.5 million,
Yeah.
lines up with that. Then he has a chance to opt out. And if he doesn't opt out, his contract is for like 27-ish a year, which is probably where it belongs for those last 3 years. And the Yankees will hope that he could sustain that into like 32, 33, 34. He is a great athlete. I think he's a motivated player. I think he's a winner. I know he can play in New York. It felt like something that needed to be done, and the Yankees held and held and did it. And I know you know this because we did it on this show a couple of times. It was LeMahieu two to me.
Yeah.
Uh, I kept saying that's the one it reminded me of, that both sides actually wanted the marriage to continue, but they were haggling about what the numbers would be, and they kept inching and inching towards a reunion, towards the goal line, and they got to the reunion just like LeMahieu did. And now the Yankees hope this turns out much better than that LeMahieu one, right? LeMahieu's nearly the MVP in 19 and 20. They re-sign him, and he, but specifically because of lower body injuries, was just never the same player again. So the Yankees will hope that the back holds up for Bellinger, the athleticism holds up, and that this is a good 5-year contract for a player I do think is one of the better position players in the sport.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Joel. I mean, 5 years, 162.5 million, 32.5 AAV, but like you said, it's baked in that it's more in the front load of the contract, and then after the opt outs, it lessens. And look, Bellinger and Boris ultimately get that top 10 outfield dollar number the first couple of years in the $40 million range, if you look at the way the contract is structured and payout. But is this guy a top 10 outfield worthy of that payday, I'm curious your thoughts. Is this more simple of the market is just so thin at that position? This guy deserved that dollar amount, just kind of like the quarterbacks in the NFL, where if you're the next one up and you're worthy of a contract like that, you're going to get paid top dollar like that.
Yeah, it's always about who's available, right?
Yeah.
Like if Aaron Judge was a free agent this offseason, what would that look like, right? Like
More than anyone, yeah.
360, yeah, 360 million, which the Yankees felt they were really stretching for, now feels like a bargain.
Yeah.
3 years later. Nobody thinks Kyle Tucker's the best player in baseball, and his annual average value blows away even Juan Soto. So it's Bichette. No one thinks he's the best. I would say that I think Bellinger is a top 20 to 25 position player in the sport, whose value builds up because of all the other stuff, the versatility. Like this is a guy, you know, we get so locked in to metric stuff these days. And I like the metrics. It helps me understand the game better. Like, but I think of it like pixels in a television. When you cover a team daily and you see a guy who every day in some way helps a team win, like whether that starts with him literally telling Aaron Boone daily, make your lineup and then tell me where I fit. Like he doesn't do the, hey, you got to keep me at one position, or you got to tell me 24 hours before him, am I left, center, or right? I mean, he's such a good athlete and such a good kind of versatile player like that. He tells Boone, figure out your ideal lineup every day. And then if I'm the left fielder, I'll play left. If I'm the right fielder, I'll play right. If it's center, it's first. So it starts with making your manager's life easier. Then you can play all four of those positions, none of them worse than average, some of them well above average. Like we haven't even seen him play first base regularly, which I think any Dodger person would tell you is by far his best position. And we've seen him play the outfield well. So he does that. He runs the bases well. He hits left-hand pitching as a lefty well. Like he is a good. It's my Mookie Betts thing when I watch Mookie Betts play all the time. I always say every day in some way he helps you win a baseball game because he's just a good baseball player. He's a defensive player, he's a base runner, he's a hitter, there's power. It's about the five tools. It's about versatility. It's about being able to play in a big market without letting the noise bother you. It's about being a good clubhouse citizen. Like, I think all of that elevates Bellinger beyond just standard numbers because he helps a manager win a baseball game every day in some way.
Last year, Bellinger was a 4.9 WAR player according to Fangraphs. This year, he's projected to be 3.1. And like you said, Joel, the versatility I think is so big for the Yankees and how they want to use him every single day. So with the Bellinger,
can I just throw in something? So like, of course, like WAR does not include like, oh, he did it today in left, he did it tomorrow in right, he did it this day in center. He told his manager, yeah, like during the game, just flip me from center to right if you need to get Judge off his feet. Like it's there is a little something beyond the WAR projection and numbers that he brings to a team. You've got to, I used to say this, like War didn't love Derek Jeter in some ways. And I would say to some people who are like, oh, Jeter isn't as good as you say he is. And I'm like, do you know Joe Torre was his manager for his first 12 years. You know what Joe Torre never had to think about? Who's the backup shortstop? Like, do you know what that means for a manager that Derek Jeter is going to show up and hit second and play shortstop for like 160 games? And he's going to be the same person on Tuesday as he will be on Sunday, as he will be in June, as he will be in August and October. And that there's a value to that certainty and that I can't quantify easily except for telling you that if you're there and you have, it's one of the things. Pete Alonso played every day. Like that was part of his value is like, wow, the Mets, you might not like how he played first base, but you know something Carlos Mendoza never had to worry about? Who's playing first base today?
Yeah.
Like he knew who's hitting third or fourth or whatever. He knew there is this extra stuff beyond the statistics and the metrics that bring value. And I think a player like Bellinger is in that category of bringing you that for his versatility, his ability to handle New York, his left on left stuff, etc.
I could not agree with you more. Like I said, that versatility is the key word. The X factor he brings from off the field. I think he's a good clubhouse guy from all reports that you've said it and you've talked to him.
Well, he's good clubhouse guy. He's
Yeah.
again, like I can't say anything more low maintenance than telling your manager, put me wherever you want and let me know. Look, Ryan, I covered the sport for a long time. There's a lot of prima donnas who are there. And that's part of, having great players is sometimes there's demands about like where I hit, when I have to know I'm having my off day, etc. And you got to nurse a guy through a season. Bellinger was not a guy that Boone, who I'm sure has 100 problems a day that we don't know about. What's the song? I got 99 problems, but he ain't one, right?
Yes.
Like Bellinger ain't one, right?
No, he's not. He's not. And look, if you look at his baseball savant
I didn't
page,
think I was going to rap lyrics this early in the
I was
morning,
waiting
did
for
you?
you. No, I didn't. I was waiting for you to drop the second half of that lyric too, and then I was going to really have to make that a clip for social. Listen, Joel, with the Cody Bellinger signing, the big question I think amongst Yankees fans and media people is what happens to Jasson Dominguez. In your honest opinion, right now, currently as we stand with this roster, and I know the Yankees can make a ton of moves, and they have right before spring training has started, right up until literally the season has started. They have had used this time to make different roster decisions. But this is a kid in Jasson Dominguez who's 23 years old. He's still young. He needs time to play, I would argue. And now this prevents him from playing every single day when you have Bellinger, Grisham, Judge as your starting outfield, as long as Giancarlo Stanton is healthy. There's a lot of levers here. But does Jasson Dominguez make sense being a bench player for the 2026 New York Yankees?
Yeah, one of the things I would ask here, Ryan, and this is something I do, and I know I brought it up before on the show, is like, let's act like we're one of the betting houses. And we have to come up with what we would establish as a comfortable over-under for number of plate appearances Jasson Dominguez gets in the major leagues this year. What would be your number for that?
For this year in his current projected role, 200.
No. You've got to do it and be right.
Oh,
Like,
be
in other
right.
words, like,
Okay.
produce a number that you think 50% of the public will bet under on and 50% will bet over on. And kind of that means like, what do you like? I understand we can make like a big fight about this, but like, anyway, like, why don't you do it?
I
What's
think
that number?
I think if I'm putting the betting market there, I'm going to put him around 200 to 215 plate appearances this year.
Yeah, I would say I would have made it 300 and a half,
All right.
like over under in there, which means he'll play a lot. And so we could talk about like what happens to him. Well, tell me the season where Stanton doesn't have a significant injury. We've mentioned pre-existing hamstring stuff for Grisham. We've mentioned pre-existing back stuff for Bellinger. There. I, I mean, I think he'll get his opportunity. If he hits players who hit play, right? The Yankees are shoehorning Ben Rice at first base because he could hit. if Dominguez hits, they'll figure out a way for him to get, like, the Mets just took obvious positions away from Brett Beatty, and yet believe Brett Beatty will get 400, 450, 500 if he hits, because they'll move him around. Now, of course, infield is a thing for him that is not for Dominguez. But I just feel like it's hard to hit in the major leagues, and if Dominguez hits, he'll do it. That is, and by the way, it's the best thing that can happen because the Yankees could then use him as a trade chip if they want. His value is probably a little lower today, or a lot lower today than maybe it was 6 months ago, 12 months ago, 18 months ago. Though the people who listen to this show should know, like, the rest of the industry didn't think he was the Martian ever, pretty much. Like, that this was a little Yankee hype fantasy among them and their fan base, that he was something that most of the rest of the industry never saw. Now, a lot of the rest of the industry still thinks there's probably a 2020 player in there, which is a really good offensive player. If he shows that on the field, he showed some power very early. I
Yep.
mean, really early. And then he showed some speed last year. What he hasn't shown is a defensive component, which the Yankees kept bullshitting about, like acting like it was good when it wasn't. Before they do what they always do, which is admit it. Oh yeah, like now we're going to admit it because it's so obvious, and we can't lie publicly anymore. Will he ever be major league average defensively and a 2020 player? That feels like within his grasp. Will he grasp that? He's not there yet, and the Yankees are trying to win a championship. And, if you told me the option was Dominguez, Grisham, and Judge, or Bellinger, Grisham, and Judge for a team trying to win a championship, that feels like a no-brainer. And you have Dominguez as depth when you know often that your DH will have long-standing injuries. Like, again, Yankee opening day is what, March 26th? If you were making the odds that Stanton will be in the lineup, what's the odds he'll be in the lineup?
Uh,
60%?
yeah, I would say
65?
40%, to be honest with you, because you don't like
Okay.
Stan showed up
Okay.
last year with 2 elbow injuries we had no idea about, and then
Right. So like Dominguez might be hitting seventh on opening day
yeah,
for all we know, as either the left fielder or the DH, and playing regularly. And so I guess we could make a problem out of what I don't think is a problem if you
okay,
think you have quality depth. The same for Spencer Jones, which I assume we'll get to, which is Spencer Jones has proven nothing beyond that he's gotten to AAA, and he looks like he has the profile of Joey Gallo, and the Yankees have done that already, which is excellent athleticism, unreal power, and way too many strikeouts and not enough batting average, probably. This is pretty obvious. Where on the Joey Gallo to Aaron Judge scale does Spencer Jones end up? The Yankees drafted him as the big piece of clay in the way they did with Judge. And Judge had a lot of these problems in the minors and closed the gaps with athleticism, determination, and great skill, to the point where I was at the dinner the other night and he got awarded his third AL MVP and is an historically great player and an historically great Yankee. Can Jones be 80% of that, 85% of that, where he closes up enough of the gaps and the strikeout percentage in the major leagues, instead of being 35 to 40%, is 27%, and the flip side is some Adam Dunn with power, Adam Dunn with athleticism, which
athleticism, yeah,
is
yeah,
like he's at 27, 28%, but it's 40 home runs
yeah.
and the ability to play an outfield position, maybe even center field at a decently good level and run the bases. Well, that you'll figure out how to use that, though I think this Yankee lineup as it stands, it's another reason why Bellinger needs to be here, strikes out way too much and is going to strike out a ton this year, I think more than last year, which I think is problematic. But like, I just don't see Dominguez and I understand the grievance bitching society we live in where everything has to become a problem. I don't see Dominguez and Jones as problems. They haven't proven anything. They haven't proven enough for a championship team. If they're playing for the Chicago White Sox, they're probably the left fielder and center fielder on opening day. But they're not. They're playing for a team that wants to try to win a championship. So what they are right now is depth that needs to prove more or be used in trades. And the best thing that can happen to the Yankees is they prove some stuff and either help them or help them by being good enough to get traded for stuff they need.
There it is.
I just don't see it as a problem, Ryan. Like, I guess I could be part of the whining chorus. It's like the best thing you could have is good depth in this sport. You know you'll use it. No team is going to use less than 40 to 45 players this year. Like the idea of sitting like last year, I could find you the quotes where like David Stern, Steve Cohn talked about the Mets having great starting pitching depth. Like that was February. By June, they were dead. Like, and so I'm not gonna like let Spencer Jones and Jasson Dominguez prove they're something before I say, you know, they have a problem. They're keeping a qualified major leaguer on the bench.
Okay. There it is. Joel Sherman's take on the Jasson Dominguez situation for Yankees fans. Listen to what he's saying. The Martian was never the Martian, and ultimately he has to prove himself to be an everyday major leaguer.
And also anybody who's complaining like what he needs to play. Well, if he does, you don't have Bellinger. Would you, if you're a Yankee fan, would you rather have Bellinger?
I think it's the Trent Grisham thing that people are.
But I don't think Bellinger's an everyday center fielder, and I know Dominguez isn't.
Yeah.
So like I actually think the length of the off season, and again, most of the whiners are also people who were saying, well, they signed Grisham. That means that Hal's going to get cheap and not bring Bellinger back. Will any of those people shut the fuck up now? They will not shut the fuck up because they like that lane that's either stupid or they enjoy being stupid, like because they get attention. But again, we do this all the time, the house number cheap thing. Cody Bellinger now has the 5th highest annual average value of any outfielder ever. One of those is Judge. So Hal Steinbrenner has signed 2 of those, besides the largest pitching contract with Cole, besides the largest free agent contract for a lefty ever with Fried, besides the 3rd largest free agent lefty ever with Rodon at the time of the signing, besides taking on $300 million, the most ever in a trade for Stanton. Again, I know the next thing that comes up, people will say, well, Hal cheaped out. I get it. Do you want Hal Steinbrenner to sell the team to a Guggenheim, Cone, Rogers type of thing, like you have in Los Angeles, Queens, and Toronto, and maybe go to $375 million payroll? Okay, maybe. Like, sure, sell it. But the idea that the Yankees are not winning because they're not spending enough is a tired argument. They are spending a ton. You want to argue they're spending it on the wrong players or it's tough to win in the post, whatever it is. But like, I would put money spent as a 20th item on the agenda of why the Yankees are without a World Series since 2009.
I agree with you. I think I had a very heated discussion with one of my coworkers here last week after the Bellinger stuff, and he's like, "Well, that's it. They're not going to get a bullpen piece." And I'm like, what else do you want now? Like, I'm like,
it's the job. This is what I've said before. It's the job of the hutting of sports, which is, you know, for anyone with Star Wars, now I'm doing Star Wars after rap, is the idea like you can't stop eating.
Yeah.
Like so if they went out and they signed, I don't even know who the best relief pitcher is on this market left right now. But they signed them, then the next thing would be, so really they're not going to add another starter? So there's the answer is it doesn't matter. And I am telling people, I tell people this constantly this offseason. The two of the winners of last offseason were the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. And they went to the World Series, and that makes sense. Except for both teams had dreadful off seasons. Dreadful, terrible. I mean, Michael Conforto, Tyler Yates, and Tanner Scott were 3 of the biggest things the Dodgers did. They didn't play on the postseason. I think Scott might have gotten on one postseason roster and never gotten in, but they weren't even on the postseason roster of the teams. Roki Sasaki didn't work out great, really, for the Dodgers last year. Toronto signed Anthony Santander. Andres Jimenez played well at shortstop in the postseason. He was a disaster during the regular season. They took on almost $100 million in him. Jeff Hoffman wasn't good. Yimi Garcia was hurt. Like, none of it worked. All I heard is the Mariners suck. They did nothing last offseason. They only signed Jorge Polanco, irony alert, for the Mets. They went further last year than they ever went. You know who won the offseason according to everyone? The Mets. And they had arguably their most dismaying season in their history that has had a lot of dismaying seasons. So I know that you need the job of the hutting of the team. I'm not sure that winning this time of year wins you favor short term. What did it win the Mets by about August last year with their fan base?
Jack shit.
Or jack shit.
I agree. I never was, but here's the thing. I think you know it. I've never been on this train of Joel, they're not spending enough. I was more asking like, where are they tactically thinking here on building this roster? I see it now. And the question is, are they running it back with last year's team? That's where a lot of people are coming, I think, from anger as well. Not just the Jasson Dominguez part, but the running it back part with last year's team that fell so short of a World Series. Here's my
Well,
I know
so
I know where you're going to go with this. It's the Ryan. It's a crapshoot in the playoffs, like it always is.
no, I think that there's a high crapshoot thing, but there's probably some sort of players that help you in the postseason more than others. But I would have said like one of those players is Max Fried, who was great last year. If Max Fried pitches a good game in the postseason, the Yankees might beat the Blue Jays.
Yeah,
He didn't. He was dreadful. So like, what do you do? Like, is the argument now they should have never brought in Fried? Like he was as big a reason they didn't win that series as anything. Last year's team tied the Blue Jays for the most wins in the league. I would say that the Yankee team that kind of settled in after the trade deadline was really a good team, like a much more rounded team that was good. So I like if you bring back that team, are you bringing back a horrible team? Like again, as opposed to what? Well, like we do this all the time. The relief store isn't on 51st and Madison. Like you could only do what's kind of realistic within a real budget, which for them is 320 million this year. Like it's again, it's going to be the third or fourth highest in the sport. The Dodgers and the Mets are now gone. Like again, I'm here to say if you think the Yankees should sell to a behemoth that looks like Guggenheim Dodgers or Cone Mets so that they go the next 40 million. I'm like, great, but like you might end up with the Dodgers, you might end up with the Mets. Like spending it, the 2 years where the Mets went crazy in the offseason, crazy, have been two of their most disappointing seasons in the history of the team. I know it makes you feel good now to eat and get fat, but it doesn't always translate that way. The reality is the Yankees do always put together a high level contender.
absolutely.
Guys who are free agents, I know you say you're running it back, but they could go play anywhere.
They could.
And and like bringing back to me Cody Bellinger is a good idea. Bringing back Ahmad Rosario I thought was a good idea. Like and I actually think where prices went for outfielders this offseason, a 1 year $22 million deal for Trent Grisham is a good deal. Like he probably gets it 3 at 45 in this marketplace. Would you rather have him for 3 at 45 or 1 at 22?
1 at 22.
Like he was a good, you know, I do not love this player. We've done a lot of shows together now, but he did have a very good year last year. If he replicates 85 to 90% of that, he's worth 22 million for 1 year. And so like, and it did not preclude them from getting Bellinger. Like, like I asked John Heyman this question yesterday, and part of it though is cereal. If you told me, and I'm not sure that the answer is yes on this, you could have Harrison Bader for 2 at 20.5, which is what he just signed with the
Right.
Giants, and then maybe some a little better pitching, or Grisham and what they did. What would you do? I think you might do Bader for the 2 years and have the right hand bat, somebody who can play center field. You can mix Bellinger with that. The problem was at the beginning of this offseason, Bader was asking for 3 and 4 years. He didn't get to where he got. Like the Yankees couldn't have known where Bader would end up when they had to make a Trent Grisham decision, right? So like you got to make a Trent Grisham decision when you're hearing what the initial number is going to be for Bader. And so I think in real time, The Grisham deal is not the disaster. And by the way, John and I did a podcast yesterday. John called the Grisham move the worst move of the offseason. I do not think it's that bad when you know how it all played out and actually what the decision the Yankees had to make in real time. By the way, they don't know they're getting Bellinger back
Right.
when they bring Grisham. So like now Bellinger goes, who would have so much more leverage if Grisham wasn't here. So would the Yankees have gone to 175, 180, 7 years or whatever? Probably not. Now Grisham is gone and Bellinger is a Blue Jay. Like, what are they doing now? Then everybody would get their desire. Spencer Jones would be in center and Dominguez would be in left. And maybe you'd sign Harrison Bader in there. So I, you have to do the offseason in the sequence that actually happens. And in the sequence that actually happened, I don't think Grisham is a terrible decision. And I don't love the player.
Yeah, look, I hear you on the decision part. At the Grisham, the player part is where I get interested about because him as a leadoff option again in front of Judge. I know he draws walks. He has a good eye. I know he's a lefty. So again, when you face a tough righty, he should be able to help you there. But the problems I think that you remain with Trent Grisham is that feels like way above the mean in his career, what he did last year compared to what he's done in the rest of his career. I don't know where he's going to fall. Like you said, if he falls in that 85 to 90% range, it's a home run 1-year deal for the Yankees. But that's a big if. And I think a question mark around this team that obviously every team has around a lot of players. But with the Yankees here for this show, the questions on Trent Grisham are going to be huge on his production for this Yankees offense.
But let's talk about we know there's questions on a lot of teams. We did this last week also, Ryan. I'll do it again, which is they build big casinos in Vegas because they're generally don't bring the emotion of what's going to happen with Jasson Dominguez and Spencer Jones. They just coldly look at what their projections have. BetMGM has the Yankees at 91.5 wins this year, which is the second most in the major leagues behind the Dodgers and the most in the American League. Now, they're looking at a team that led the majors in runs scored last year. We did this a lot also last year where there was some shows where it was like they'd score 6 runs and you go like, yeah, but look how they scored it. And I'm like, yeah, but it is 6 runs. Like at the end of the day, if you score 4 touchdowns off of like booted fumbles, you score 4 touchdowns. It's the Yankees scored the most runs in the major leagues. I think this is one of the reasons I think it's not a crapshoot. I think the Yankees are going to have a postseason problem if they get there next October because they strike out too much. And I think that becomes really susceptible and more problematic in the postseason. We saw a team like the Blue Jays and even to some degree the Dodgers who are better at like put the ball in play, real-time baseball than I think the Yankees are. From April through September, I think they're going to torpedo back their way to a ton of runs again.
Unless they go through a June swoon again, like they have in 3 straight years.
We'll see. We'll see if it happens again. Again, the end result was 94 wins, which was the most in the American League. However, they got there. I agree with you. I wrote a ton. This is multiple times under Aaron Boone, where they've had some of the worst stretches of the last 30 years when they've been a very good team have come under Boone mid-season. And I would say that's unacceptable. Now, the question is, are we about to see something different this year? Because their rotation might pick up guys along the way.
Right.
Rodon on May 1st, Cole on June 1st, perhaps Clark Schmidt on August 1st, and they avoid the swoon because they're getting better in that area as the season's going along. I think I was wrong about it last year. I still feel like that's the area that is most concerning to me, but I'm not exactly sure what else they could do. They've gone to about 8 or 9 major league starters. Like Paul Blackburn is a 5th starter for some teams. Ryan Yarbrough is a 5th starter for some teams. Will Warren made 33 starts in the major leagues last year. Schlittler looked good. Ryan Weathers was a guy, I'm telling you, the more teams I talk to, I'm like blown away how many teams were trying to acquire Ryan Weathers as kind of like this under the radar guy to grab along the way. And obviously you have Fried, Luis Heel, and maybe those 3 injured guys. Like there is a scenario where they're the best rotation in the American League, and there's a scenario where you and I are sitting and doing shows going, wow, like they're already up to Elmer Cruz here, Rodriguez or Carlos Lagrange or like so I see it. I just don't know like how much more you throw at it. I think they're a relief pitcher short, especially a power lefty. Um, that guy is not really in the marketplace. The
No,
best
no,
lefty
yeah.
left is like Danny Colombe, who's another soft tosser, really, and finesse guy. So they're hard to find. You'll hold them if you could get them.
Look,
Tim Hill's
this
been
was a
pretty
bullpen
good.
last year, Joel, that finished 23rd in baseball in the team ERA
Yeah.
as a bullpen. Like it
And
and I,
that has historically been one of the strengths
yeah.
of like the last 15 years of like as Cashman took the team more analytical, they have found a ton of bullpen answers along the way, and it always outperformed the concern about it on April 1st. Last year, like look, a lot of this was a Devin Williams thing, right? Like Devin Williams was brought in, he had 3 sub 2 ERAs in a row,
Yeah.
right? And you're thinking, okay, you're putting that guy at the end of the game. And he was mostly, I know people do the well, he figured it out in the second half. He was mostly a disaster for them, in a ton of different ways, a disaster for them. And, Luke Weaver wasn't as good last year but if we were doing a show on this day a year ago, and maybe we were probably saying, oh, they're in good shape with Weaver and Williams
Yeah, we did.
closing. Like because you felt good about that, and they traded for Fernando Cruz, who's a big strikeout guy, who was a big strikeout guy for the Yankees, and they brought back Tim Hill, which was a guy who pitched great on their World Series team, and like we thought this was, and that's why I'm saying you could really be fooled and deluded by
Mm,
an off season because that was not the thing we were talking about as a problem area when we were doing shows at this time last year.
no.
Look, we do our best. We know the players. We have projections to try to figure it out. I would say the people who are professionals at figuring it out think the Yankees are going to be the best team in the American League this year. Like right there with the Mariners, the Blue Jays, like those are the three who are in that 89 to 91 win bucket in almost every projection system you see.
Look, there's going to be variance with every team. The Yankees feels like just because of what, like you said, we know these guys, these players, their history, recent history has told us a lot about this team because it is a lot of the same players. Where it's like there's a huge variance of they could be the best team in the American League by far, but there is a lot that could happen that they have to get over where they could be a really bad team. But again, we'll see how it all plays
Well,
out.
they haven't been a really bad
They
team for a
haven't.
long time.
Well,
And look, one of these years, Ryan, the again, Grievance Society Inc. is going to be right. But like for 35 straight years, they've been a pretty high level contender. My guess would be we get to one more year of that. Having said that, there is going to be one of these years where Judge hurts an oblique or Freed makes an athletic play and twists the knee or whatever it is, and they have one injury too far, and they don't have like kind of the out of nowhere season from someone that they've gotten a lot over the last 35 years, like from Aaron Small to Gio Urshela to guys who like really saved them when things looked bad
Ben Rice.
sometime in the last 35 years. And they're going to win 77, and my suspicion is then the fans will get their wish and everybody will be fired. And we'll see if the next Mike McCarthy is better than the previous Mike Tomlin. Like that, again, the easiest thing to do is fire. The next thing is, did you actually make a good hire? Yeah, yeah, definitely. Tom Coughlin's run his course. Time to get him out. Oh, Ben McAdoo. Like, be careful. Be careful. You we're seeing it now. Like maybe the Knicks are going to be much better with Mike Brown. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent. I agree with you to an extent. I think a lot of people and Yankees fans who are the doomsdayers are not thrilled with Aaron Boone just because of the way we've seen this progress year after year after year with the midseason swoon that carries over into the playoffs. But again,
And by the way, like there is a definite argument that is a logical argument to me to be made that the Yankees could and should move on from Aaron Boone. It's the midseason swoon. It's when they meet resistance in the postseason from a team that's their equal or better, they kind of fall at their knees to those teams. I get it. I do think managing this team has layers that are not publicly seen that are incredibly important that Aaron Boone excels at. And that the Tuesday night, should he have kept stuck with Hill or bring in Weaver, is, I understand, is really, if you were sitting down at the time of the decision and you could look at it in some analytical way, you'd say, this is a 48-52 decision. It's close, and sometimes the guy gives up a homer, and sometimes he gets a strikeout, and people make huge assessments based on what the outcome is. I do think underlying stuff about preparedness, about having his team have a very unified front, a good clubhouse. These are things Boone excels at. And the question is that enough? And the family loves him. Steinbrenner loves him. Cashman loves him. The most important player on the team loves him. And if you're going to make that change, it's fine. But like when he was hired, I want you to understand, like, this is like one of the things. The Yankees went far in the postseason and went to game 7 of the ALCS with Girardi. So they were late in the hiring process. If you talk to a lot of people about who would have been on the top of their list to hire if they would have been able to start on October 1st, one of the names that gets repeated over and over by honest people who could admit, look how it could have gone, is Mickey Callaway, who, by the way, at that moment was as good a managerial candidate as there was in the sport. People were like, wow, he comes from that Cleveland tree, the Francona, look at the success he's had there. People were dying. He interviewed with Sandy Alderson. He was supposed to go to Philadelphia to interview. Sandy Alderson did everything he can to make sure he didn't get on a plane to become the Mets manager. The Mets thought they hit a home run that day. It turned into a disaster. And I'm telling you that he could have been the Yankee manager instead of Boone if the Yankees get eliminated like in the first round. Or, by the way, eliminated by Cleveland, funny enough, right? They beat Cleveland in that thing. They go to game 5. They win that series. Mickey Callaway might have been their manager. Oof. And so I know that the next guy always sounds like a better option, but the next guy could be Mickey Callaway. Now, Yankees are on a good run. I would say a Showalter to Torrey to Girardi to Boone run over 3.5 decades is about sturdiness, constancy, and really good managers. I think they're all really high-end managers. I think Boone's success in the regular season, people do this. But again, look, the Mets were supposed to be good last year. His bench coach, Carlos Mendoza, was great in 2024. In 2025, everyone, Met fan that I know, wanted him fired.
Yeah.
So I know the next guy always sounds like the answer, Ryan. And I'm here to tell you, again, you can make the argument that the Yankees should move on from Boone. But I think it's an emotional decision and ignoring that, like, it is hard to be good every year to the point where we're saying, hey, one of these years they are going to have like the 77 and 85 year. And that has not happened under Torrey, Girardi, and Boone. The team has always gotten to pretty much October where you say they got a puncher's chance to win.
They always do. And I think, listen, Joel, you've painted a beautiful picture here about this Yankees team and how they're heading into 2026. Real quick. You hit on the bullpen there. I think that's clear. They need one more bullpen arm here. The bench, as it currently stands, it is Jasson Dominguez, Ahmed Rosario, Oswaldo Cabrera. Jose Caballero is in the starting lineup every day with Anthony Volpe's injury. JC Esquera is the other piece on that bench. You got two lefty-handed hitting catchers. I know there's no market out there for a right-hand hitted catcher, but could you see them potentially making a move to get a right-handed catcher onto their bench?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, I do think I do think this is one of those things to remember where if I were, and it's funny, like I see some of it, it's like 3 weeks ago, if we were talking to a Met fan, they were like, Cohen cares about the casino. He doesn't care about the team. Stearns is a small market executive who doesn't know what he's doing. And then, of course, it's a long off season, and here we are. And the Mets projection is 90.5 wins. It's like tied for second in the National League with the Phillies behind the Dodgers, right? Who are a behemoth who everyone is chasing in the sport. And they did it. I would say there's still a week and a half till spring training. I would say that there's 2 months until the regular season, and then, of course, a long time to July 31st. Is it an absolute? I would be surprised if by the time the Yankees are in San Francisco to play the Giants for opening day, they haven't acquired a righty hitting catcher. Remembering that like 2 years ago, they made a three-team trade where they brought in John Birdie and sent out Ben Rodford. And like this stuff happens during spring training, late in spring training, as teams are trying to like figure it out. For example, and I know nothing, I know it will get aggregated anyway. I know nothing. But like once the Twins signed Victor Caratini, they have Victor Caratini and Ryan Jeffers. Alex Jackson, who had been in the Yankee organization, is kind of their third catcher now, right? He's making about $1.5 million. The Twins are probably the kind of team would probably not want to pay $1.5 million to their third catcher, right? Alex Jackson is a guy who was the third of like the sixth pick in the draft by Seattle long ago, never stuck because he couldn't hit, suddenly hit last year. A little bit. It's a very small sample size, and particularly in both the minors and majors, hit lefty pitching, which you would want a defender who could hit lefty pitching as the cohort to Austin Wells. I would think, without saying, I have no idea if the Yankees care about Alex Jackson. I have no idea if the Minnesota Twins are trading Alex Jackson, but I would say there'll be an Alex Jackson type over the next 8 weeks where the Yankees begin the season with that type of player on their roster. Now, of course, this will become Yankee Insider says they're hot for Alex Jackson. Can't stop it. I'm saying it's the archetype of the kind of thing they would like. Look, I would throw it out to Yankee fans. Would you be okay with Gary Sanchez coming back, who's still a free agent, as the backup catcher? A righty hitter. The Yankees always thought his defense was a little better than everybody else. He's still could hit a ball out of the park. I think he's accepted what he is. Would he want to play here again? Would they want to marry him again? He's a free agent. Like, so I think that they're, and by the way, maybe the Yankees are interested, but they're like, this is the amount of money we're going to allocate for that. If you get to be okay with that amount of money, give us a call. And as we get closer to spring training opening, which we are obviously every day, this is the moment where some guys go, okay, I'm not going into plumbing supplies. I have to play baseball this year. And so I'll accept the money. So there are some righty hitting catchers out there that I think could interest them along the way. And this is the moment again where I tell fans, the Yankees know what the problem is. They know what the problem is, right? Like, they'll probably try to solve it. Like I kept telling Met fans, do you think the Mets don't know what they need? Do you actually think like Steve Cohen and David Stearns are sitting around going like, what can we do today to piss off the fans? like they know what it is. And like for the Steve Cohen Mets, money never gets in the way. For the Hal Steinbrenner Yankees, where they're up at $320 million, and this is again the moment where if you want Hal to sell the team because you're like, screw this, we want an $8 million catcher, and we'll pay whatever to have that compliment. This is the moment to say he should sell the team and be able to like screw everything else. I don't think the Yankees won't win the World Series this year. If they don't win the World Series this year, it won't be because of who their right-hand hitting catcher is. Like, but I think that they should go get one, and I would be surprised if they don't go get one.
Yankees fans, this is quite the episode. You got everything. You got rap from Joel. You got Star Wars analogies from Joel. And then ultimately you got battle.
A five-tool player, my friend. Especially a couple. This is not whiskey. It's coffee, by the way.
You got it all from Joel Sherman today. And we appreciate you, as always, for hopping on here, Pinstripe Post. For all you fans, hit that like and subscribe button on the New York Post Sports YouTube channel. We'll catch Joel again next week. As always, stay warm, Joel. We appreciate you, man.
All right, Ryan. All the best. And thanks, everyone, for watching.